Hey everyone, my name is Danilo Petrovic.
I'm Ilya Marchenko.
I'm Denis Kudla.
I'm Evgeny Donskoy.
I'm Henry Laaksonen.
I'm Peter Torebko, and you're listening to the Game to Love podcast.
Hey, welcome back, tennis fans. Unfortunately, we are here to announce some bad news. JG is not with us. It's not because of the bad news and JG's super upset, even though I think he probably is. He has a bit of an injury at the moment, which is preventing him being able to do the podcast just with his bad neck. So wishes go out to JG, but we have John Silk joining us today. How are you doing, John, for this somber news of Rafa contracting COVID-19? Bit disappointing, that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, from someone who's almost certainly fully vaccinated and somebody who tends to, take this thing pretty seriously in the last couple of years and all the rest of it. It just goes to show that this virus is it's certainly back. I mean, we've had a few podcasts before where it's like Rafa's back, but now, unfortunately, the virus is certainly back, and certainly here in Western Europe, at least. I mean, my personal life has been disrupted by it as well. I was planning on going to the UK, but now that's not possible because of COVID, and so many people's lives are being affected by it, and now Mr. Nadal too.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk. Obviously, we're on the approach to Christmas at the moment, and in the UK, it's rife at the moment with speculation of potential lockdowns before Christmas, and there's actually protests. I think there was 50,000 people doing a protest on Oxford Street at the weekend, which that's the world's worst thing if you're actually trying to keep everybody apart just to try and prevent the spread of something. But I think people were just trying to put their foot down at the moment, but is what it is. We're here to speak about Rafa. It's very sad to hear. I've got a tweet that he's obviously put out, as he always does. He's pretty on the ball with letting everybody know how he's getting on. So we'll just bring that up. I won't read it in Spanish to confuse everybody. But he says, not sure how well the translation is going to go from Google, but it says, "Hi all, I wanted to announce that on my return home from playing the Abu Dhabi tournament, I've tested positive for COVID in the PCR test that was performed on me when I arrived in Spain."
Just one thing, by the way, one thing. Every single minute counts here. Did he arrive yesterday or today? We don't know. I'm guessing last night. That would be my guess, or yesterday. I mean, I am, because like many Rafa Nadal fans, counting days, getting the calculator out, looking at when tournaments are starting, looking at when he tested positive, and thinking about the usual 14, 15 days that you need to quarantine from that moment onwards. So, but it would have been. I think it could well have been yesterday that he arrived in Spain.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I'm sure he's probably slept on it and then released a statement in the morning, I would have thought. I don't think he'll just come back all not jet lagged, but just do it as soon as he's got off the plane. He's probably taken a little bit of time, probably taken a few tests. I doubt he's probably just had one and pinged out a tweet, because he knows it's all over the news. It's not just like over Twitter. It's on the main news stations as well. It was sort of like a long thread of him speaking about it. He says, both in Kuwait and Abu Dhabi, we passed controls every 2 days, and we were and all were negative. The last being on Friday, having the results on Saturday, which is quite interesting, isn't it? That he's been testing negative all the way through the tournament, and just now it only takes 1 day or only takes 1 second by the looks of it, and looks like you can come a cropper. And unfortunately, on returning, we've got the positive test. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, he could well have picked it up on Thursday or Friday, but those initial tests won't recognize it. But anyway, it also shows traveling. I mean, this is This is a key. It's what all the health officials tell us. Traveling does both increase your risk of getting it and, of course, spreading it.
Exactly right. He said, I'm having some unpleasant moments, but I hope that I will improve little by little. I'm now homebound and have reported the results to those who I've been in contact with. So that's good. He's following all the protocols at least.
The bit about I'm going to inform everyone that I've been in contact with. I mean, I think this is a pretty good way of informing everyone, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know, literally. Just pop out a tweet. It's on the news stations. If you've been in contact with Rafa,
I don't think he's having to call Shapovalov and hey Shapo, how's it going, mate? Yeah, not bad. What you been up to? Well, got some news.
Yeah, that's it. He's ringing all the X's, isn't he? All right. Moving on to the next bit. He says, as a consequence of the situation, I have to have total flexibility with my calendar, and I will analyze my options depending on my evolution. I will keep you informed of any decisions about my future tournaments. Thanks you in advance for all your support and understanding. I'm not sure the exact translation there. Evolution. I'm not sure if that's.
Can you go up? Let's have a look.
Go on. John's got the Spanish. Oh, he does say it's mi evolución.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's basically my development.
Exactly.
Yeah, how it goes. So again, there's another key word in there, which is options. I think I saw something about options anyway.
Analyze my options.
I mean, that's where you've got three possibilities, really. One is that he still goes and plays some tennis before Melbourne. Melbourne starts on the 17th of January. But of course, he would want to be there 10 days before. And as you're bringing up here, the pre-tournament that he'd signed up for in Adelaide, starts. There's actually two, I think. One that sort of starts around the 4th or the 5th, and another one that starts on about the 9th or the 10th. So, within the time frame, we're really borderline, but it could be possible that he could test negative in 14 days, jump on a plane, start as he possibly would do in a 250 1 or 2 days after the tournament actually starts, and be on a court playing his first match in Adelaide on about the 10th or 11th of January. Because I say there were two tournaments in Adelaide, I believe. So there's one that starts on the 2nd or the 3rd, and there's another one for qualifiers, and then on the 4th. But there's also another one 5 or 6 days later. So it's not impossible for him to test negative in 14 or 15 days and then be on a plane within 24 hours and then be in Australia 24 hours later and be on a court playing a tennis match 24 hours later. Go on.
No, definitely not. I was just popping that up there just for just so you can have a look at the actual schedule.
Perfect. So, in fact, he could even switch tournaments. We've got one in Adelaide there on the 9th. We've got another one there in Sydney as well on the 9th. I'm sure those tournaments will be flexible enough to include Rafa Nadal. So that is not... And if he was an 18-year-old who was just starting out, and if this was Alcaraz or Raducanu, who of course Raducanu is also tested positive, but obviously tested positive about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so she should be fine. This would be different, but we know that Nadal likes his practice. He likes his pre-tournaments. He likes to go in. I mean, he was already sort of complaining about his situation with not having enough time to prepare for Australia in terms of the foot injury. And of course, he finished this weekend coming just before he came home. His last press conference, he said, I don't know, basically, if I'm going to be playing Australia. But at that point, he was referring to his foot injury.
Yes. I think it's, well, like you said, I think warm-up is even more important this year than any other year for him. I think that the way that we've seen him come back, I don't think it was terrible. I watched the matches, him versus Murray. I think obviously that was the first match back. He was slightly slower in that match, and Murray played well though. He served well, and
Murray served very well.
I think that was just testament to Murray that he actually had a good match, and Rafa's first match back with the not the new foot, but with the the foot finding his feet on the court again. The Shapovalov match, that was actually a lot better. I actually thought it was quite a competitive one. Still a bit fun. They were doing a few through the leg shots, those type of things, a little bit exhibition like. But Chapo sort of threw it away for me in the first set. I don't think he was up. He was serving for the first set and then just gave it away, really. But I think the hitting looked good from Rafa, and I think that's a good sign that he was able to plant on the foot and actually still fire off a few winners here and there. I think Chapo actually looked quite good, to be honest. I don't know what happened there.
By the way, Murray looked excellent.
Yeah,
I have to
really
say that was
good.
great to see him, him competing against these kind of players. I know Rafa's kind of just coming back from injury, but also don't forget he comfortably beat Dan Evans. He's had a fairly good year, as it turned out. With Murray, of course, will be somebody who knows very well. Be interesting to know the date that Murray tested positive last year. Of course, the tournament in Australia last year was in February. I think it began about middle of February, and he tested positive, but I think it was like days before his flight to come to Australia. And don't forget, last year the number of pre-tournaments was limited. There were a few, but it was particularly complicated. But so Nadal's got these three options, if you like. One is to hopefully test negative on the sort of 3rd or 4th of January, which would be about 2 weeks today. There's 31 days in December, so that's in his favor rather than 30 or 28. And then obviously, get out to Australia, get on a practice court, probably have 1 or 2 days on a practice court before beginning at one of the pre-tournaments and then going into Melbourne. And, this is the most optimistic scenario, and the foot is fine. The COVID test is negative and he feels healthy.
Yeah.
That possibility, I would say, is unlikely. It's possible, but it's unlikely, I would say. The other possibility is he goes to Australia without playing a practice tournament. Again, that's not his normal cup of tea. Maybe the Rafa Nadal of 5 or 10 years ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago, remember in 2019, he pretty much went into it without any, and he still got to the final that year. So that's a possibility, at least. I think the most likely one, though, is that he pulls out of everything. What do you think, Ben?
Well, that's the one thing that we're sort of treading around that subject, trying to find all of the other possibilities for Rafael Nadal right now. And I have to say, that's the glaring one, which is sort of looking us in the face. And I'm getting a bit sick of how many times we've done a Rafa withdraws podcast, to be honest. I don't really want to do another one of them. I'm sort of was hoping we'd get to see him in Australia, but I reckon there's part of me that sees it about 75% at the moment that he probably won't go. And that's I don't know if that's being too negative, but it doesn't look good, does it? This type of announcement coming, we're quite close to. I mean, how many weeks are we away? We're not far away, are we?
It's 4 weeks today, I think. That the Australian Open starts 4 weeks today.
Pretty mad.
Depending on where you are in the world and what time it is. But I was thinking about it last night. At about 1 a.m. sort of Central European time, normally the Aussie Open begins. And that would have been on the Sunday night, so last night. So we're looking at about 4 weeks away. If that tournament as well if it was a European tournament and it was a European Grand Slam, and that would also make it slightly easier as well. But
yes,
I think 75% sounds about right. I was thinking 50 to 75%. So let's go somewhere in the middle, about 60% chance that he won't play Australia. There may be another tournament. There may be some kind of tournament that he could play, like some sort of exhibition 3 or 4 days before. When does the ATP Cup start, by the way? I guess. That's first to the. Well, that's not happening.
So I think he's out of that. Surely,
he was out of that. I know. He might switch, but
quite an interesting another tweet that did come out. Well, we had Jose Morgado. He was also tweeting saying Rafael Nadal, who wasn't sure about playing the Australian Open, tested positive, has time to complete isolation and practice preparation for the tournament. But after so many months out, we will see. And I think that is the key thing. So many months out and making that, it's a big journey to go over to Australia and all of the logistics around it. I think it's quite. But just to like touch on what you were saying, sort of about will there be another exhibition? Well, I was looking at this tweet. It's quite interesting. It said the Mubadala exhibition is proven to be a super spreader. Reckless playing it whilst COVID cases were rampant. Raducanu and Nadal both tested positive there. Did they have strict protocols? Notice how media won't put any blame on this exhibition like they did for the Adria Tour. I wonder why. Oh, there's a little bit of I think somebody is a slight Djokovic fan there, Pabby G.
I reckon they could be. I reckon they could be. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But what do you think of that? Do you think that they've had the right protocols? Sound like Rafa said they're being tested quite religiously there, though.
I mean, it's country by country and it's area by area. 2 people testing positive is not ideal. I'm not sure I would call it a super spreader when 2 people test negative several days apart. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, when we talk about COVID cases being rampant, I guess it all depends on which country and in which region you're in and what the protocols are. I certainly, when they were coming onto the court, I don't recall seeing them wear a mask, and I certainly don't recall seeing members of the crowd wearing a mask. Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. In hindsight,
I think there were people in the crowd, though. I think I did see that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't everybody. So it's just a bit. If you either have one rule or no rules, I think it's just a bit strange when you've got like half of the people do. I mean, that it probably means that it wasn't required, and some people just chose to. That's all I'm sure that the rules were at the event. So I don't think you normally get them saying you have to wear masks and people aren't wearing them at all.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's a bit of a strange one. Obviously, we had Dominic Thiem. He was he was a sort of casualty, but not due to COVID. He just ended up getting sick while he was there, didn't he? And didn't even play the tournament and has pretty much thrown into doubt his return to the tour now. We don't know if he's even going to be traveling or playing in Australia now. So
yeah, I mean, he still seems to have some of the after effects of his wrist. In his tweet or his statement that he put out yesterday, I think it was, he does even touch upon the wrist, about it improving or still having something. So that's the other thing. I mean, if it's just a mere cold and he just thought, you know what, I'm a bit under the weather, no point playing an exhibition, see you in Australia, fine. But that tweet cast into doubt so many things. I think Rafa's similar as well. Rafa's a bit older, so that adds to that. But with both players, we're just not sure. We've been watching tennis for 10, 20, 30 years, you know, and we've seen so many players, and Del Potro and now Wawrinka as well would seem to be falling into this category. And the Federer, of course, when the comebacks get delayed and then they get delayed and then they come back and then they break down. And when you start seeing this over a period of 6 to 12 to 18 months, as we've seen with the players I just highlighted, you know, you do fear I'm looking at the worst case scenario with Dominic Thiem here, I must say. You do fear that with wrist injuries, with back injuries, with knee injuries, that, you know, that it becomes a more serious concern. I think Federer, and to a less extent Nadal, obviously they've got, you know, more of an age issue than Thiem does, and maybe everything will be fine. But yeah, it's not great news.
No, definitely not. I just thought it'd be good. I just brought the tweet up so we could have a quick look for Dominic Thiem as well. He's out of both the ATP Cup and Sydney. Still hopes to be healthy in time for the Australian Open. And he was saying, after speaking to my team, we've decided to return to Austria instead of flying directly to Australia. Unfortunately, I caught a cold and tested negative for COVID while in Dubai and was unable to practice last week. I will therefore not be in a physical condition required to be able to play the ATP Cup in Sydney. After not competing for the last 6 months, I can't take the risk of coming back too soon and picking up a further injury. So he's obviously well aware that if this wrist isn't 100%, he's probably going to be back on the shelf again for another 6 months. And I'd be so sad if we don't get to see a season with Dominic Thiem in again this year. I think we missed it a bit last year. I think it was obviously Djokovic, he sort of had his way with the first half of the year. And I think if Dominic Thiem was maybe in the picture, there might have been a few more people testing Djokovic a little bit more. Obviously, Rafa gave him a good run at the French Open, but you never know. If Dominic Thiem had been in there as well, there might have been more firepower to go against Djokovic. But Djokovic still might have cleaned up anyway. We don't know. And he seems to keep his body somehow in the best condition of everybody. They could be 10 years younger than him and they're struggling with much worse injuries than what Novak's doing. But he's doing something right, isn't he?
Team situation, as long as he doesn't test positive in the next 24, 48 hours, obviously having been in Abu Dhabi, I'm sure he'll be testing like mad. His situation seems to be a bit clearer from that statement, whereas with Rafa, we've got 3 questions, if you like, or 3 possibilities. With him, It seems to be 2. He'll either go straight to Australia and just compete in the Australian Open, or he won't. There's a little bit of optimism there. He said, I still hope to play the Australian Open, but I think it still has to be the wrist. I mean, he says further injury. It seems to be the wrist. I mean, this cold and stuff, that'll keep him off the court for a few days perhaps, but it shouldn't. I mean, he's basically pulled out of the 2 pre-tournaments, if you like, on the basis of his wrist not being 100%.
It's super worrying. Not to go over too much the same thing, but the wrist injury, I feel like his game is so dependent on very long, hard-fought matches and that style, like massive whip and stuff on the racket. It worries me so much that he has to put so much into some of those victories when he gets them, and I don't even want to say it. Will he still have the stamina? Will his wrist have enough stamina to allow him to play those type of matches anymore? We're already seeing it with some other players on the tour where your body starts giving up. I hope that that's not the case for him. I don't really.
How old is he? 27, 28?
I think he's 28, I think. Off the top of my head, I'm going to go with that, but apologies if I got that wrong.
And I do think he's one of the fittest guys on tour. I mean, they're all pretty fit, but there are some that are sort of fitter than others. Listen, let's put a sort of positive spin on this, if you like. There's 2 possibilities. One, he'll play Australia. One, he won't. Even if he doesn't, and he's just saying, "Listen, I want to get my wrist 100%. I'll see you on the clay," which it was an expression I remember from Roger Federer about 2 years ago. "I'll see you on the grass," and that was just before COVID hit, really. And that didn't happen for another sort of 18 months.
Is he going to do a Roger and use the Australian Open as a warm-up tournament?
The gap between that and the clay court season. Maybe use the Australian Open as a warm-up for Mexico, Acapulco or something. But so it's not great, but we wish him all the best. And he says almost 100%. At least suggests a trajectory of positivity regarding the wrist. Nadal's situation sort of seems to be day by day. Some days good, some days bad. He sort of highlighted the foot a couple of times in interviews before Abu Dhabi, and even in his last press conference. It's kind of like some days good, some days not so good, and sometimes I have to play through pain. I was watching his movement quite closely, Nadal in Abu Dhabi, and
yes, same.
Seemed to be pretty good most of the time. Like you say, when it's some of the thumping moments, when the foot has to really take a lot of stress. There were a couple of times when I thought he wasn't chasing balls down, but maybe I'm just looking too much into it.
Exhibition as well.
Right.
Easing yourself back into it. But I still thought there was promising signs, and that's the key thing I think from that for Rafa is he managed to finish 2 matches. It wasn't like the worst thing in that whole thing could have been was you see him limp off the court and pull out of one of the matches or something. That would have been the total, like the worst storyline that would have come from that exhibition. That wasn't the storyline. Obviously, we've got the second worst thing. He's come and he's said he's tested positive, and now he's having to just self-isolate for a bit. I think all in all, mate, we should probably wrap it up. Let's just give a quick summary of what we've spoken about. Rafael Nadal, we reckon that he's got 3 weeks to potentially get himself to Australia to potentially start playing maybe a warm-up tournament, maybe the Australian Open. I still think he's 75% out. I reckon there's a 25% chance that he'll play. What do you reckon on your side?
I think about the same. Maybe I'll be slightly more optimistic and go for a 35% chance of him being at the Australian Open and competing.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. Anyway, I just want to say a quick thanks to everybody who did join us for this one. Sorry, I'm not very good at going to the live chat during the thing. That's normally a JG feature. We've got Ellie in Vegas saying, good morning, GTL fam. How you doing? We've got a few of the other people in here. We've obviously got Gene in. We've got Almino. We've also got a few other people who are just joining us just for this one, which is a 12 Travel in there as well. So great to have all you guys in there. It's been
Eddie
nice
Mayer has just quickly posted a question, which is, any thoughts on Australia postponing because of Omicron?
I don't think it's postponing, but I did see somebody wrote in the live chat. There's probably, was it Almino potentially? I think because he's in Australia himself at the moment. I think he was saying probably more likely you would just play behind closed doors. Yeah, see, there you go. There's Almino. Too late to call it off. But I could definitely see my government banning spectators if it gets really bad.
Yeah.
Which I think that's probably a fair comment, to be honest. I'm not sure that they're going to call it off now because they've had all of this debacle with trying to get people in and saying, oh, come on, you've got to be this, you've got to be that to come in. So now they've done all of that. Are they going to backtrack and just say, right, no one's in now? I don't know. I don't think that they'll do that. I reckon it's about 90% the chance it will go ahead.
Yeah, I think it'll go ahead. I mean, as you say, they'll just do it behind closed doors. Actually, I don't know how many cases Australia's getting. I mean, the last 18 months, I know Western Australia has pretty much blocked it all off and still is not getting any cases. But other parts of Australia, I know it's been a bit worse. And of course, their lockdowns have been a lot more severe. I suspect it'll go ahead one way or another, but it'll go ahead on time. I also don't think, I mean, there's other times in the pandemic where delaying 2, 3, 4 weeks can give you that breathing space. We're talking about the beginning of the Omicron spread, if you like. So 2 or 3 weeks is not going to make any difference. And the players are already very close to flying. I would think even 1 or 2 might even be getting on planes in the next few days. So I think they will go ahead with the tournament. But as Almino highlights, it'll either be with or without fans.
So how long until we get the announcement that the French Open's moving to December? Or I don't think they're going to get away with that again.
It would be funny if the French Open had anticipated Omicron and said, we're going to bring it forward by 6 months and we're going to get it done before Omicron really hits.
That's it. We're having it an early one, Christmas French Open.
Christmas French Open.
Yeah, anyway, I think we're going to wrap that up. Quick shout out to everyone. Say thanks for joining us for this one. If you haven't already, hit a like on this video. It really does help the channel out. Subscribe if you're new. And we should announce as well, there is our first GTL vlog is now available for Patreon members. So if you want to see myself, JG, we went to the ATP Champions Tour in London. It was a 3-day, well, it was a 4-day event. We went for the final 3 days, and it is just some behind the scenes of GTL. There's a few of the patrons have already given it a rave review. So if you want to sign up to our Patreon, you can see that vlog and have instant access to it now. So it is very funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm just I'm a bit too close to it, but from the feedback we've had already, I think everybody has really enjoyed it, and you get to see me and JG what we're like on a normal everyday basis, which quite interesting. Anyway, cool. we'll wrap that up. Cheers to you, John. Thanks for joining, and
thanks, Ben.
in replacement for JG today. And
no problem.
I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
No doubt.
Anyway, goodbye for now, everyone. See you on the next one.